I took your strategy and I took what I learned from the strategies you taught me and what I've been practicing through those strategies. And then I tried to figure out, all right, what pieces of that strategy can I remember enough to use it on my own?
Which of these beliefs do you have more? Do you have part one, I know I can do the behavior, or part two, I know I can decide which behaviors are going to get me what outcomes? And maybe you're out there saying, I'm not very good at either of those. That's okay. Let's just build them up a little bit by a little bit by a little bit, and eventually you'll get to a place.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed yesterday's episode. It was episode number 1588. How do you make your decisions? We talked about logic versus emotion. Today, for episode number 1589, the two types of self-belief. This is a conversation that Alan and I had the other day, and over the last 1,500, almost 1,600 episodes, and the coaching calls and the self-reflection and the self-awareness, we're realizing that self-belief and self-worth are two of the most important, if not the two most important things when it comes to accomplishing what you want, having a great relationship, all that stuff. It's so important to believe you are capable of it, but also believe you are worthy of it. And Alan brought a new perspective when it comes to self-belief the other day, so I'm going to kick it to you, man. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, well, you can see on YouTube. If you're listening to this, I have the biggest pimple on the end of my nose. It couldn't be in a worse spot, and it sucks.
That's going to hurt to pop.
I already popped it. It just keeps coming back. Yeah, it's almost like you're on camera often? Okay, yeah, we're going to creep on back and let you deal with this again. So a little insecure, but not as insecure as I once would have been.
Obviously not. I mean, you're talking about it.
Sometimes the best way to make the pain go away is just to talk about it. Let's get it out. Let's get it out.
All right. So Kevin and I, to his point, have come to understand, self-belief and self-worth are the source code of the life you want, for lack of better phrasing. Did your chair just give out?
My chair just gave out, yeah. I still haven't fixed it.
We're doing it. It's Friday night. It's all good.
We're
I know
getting
it's not
through.
Friday night for the listeners, but what is this dropping? Sunday?
Monday.
This is Monday. So happy Monday, everybody. It's Friday night for us. Okay. So I was on a coaching session this time last week, and one of my clients, we were talking about self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is essentially the psychology word for self-belief. And we pulled up the grid there's this grid that we have where the x-axis, picture a plus sign. The x-axis is from 0 to 10. The y-axis is from 0 to 10. The y-axis is self-belief, and the x-axis is self-worth. And there's 4 quadrants. And the idea in my coaching is I want to try to get everybody to the 4th quadrant, the upper right, and aka high self-belief and high self-worth. And so I was doing this with this client who I think struggles with self-worth way more than self-belief. And so I said, what's your self-belief? 0 to 10, statistically speaking. She said, I think an 8. I said, I would say that's fair, maybe a little higher, to be honest, but fair. And then I said, 0 to 10, what's your self-worth? And we dug into her heart on this one, and I think she said probably 4, maybe 3. I said, yeah, okay, so how do you build self-worth? And we went through all the ways you build self-worth. We rated them from 0 to 10, blah, blah, blah. But the next day, she sends me an audio. She says, I was thinking about the self-efficacy thing, and I was thinking about self-belief, and I think there's 2 types of self-belief. The first type is I do believe in my own ability to execute. This person's a sicko. They execute systems. They work out when they don't want to work out. They track their calories when they don't want to track their calories. They are, statistically speaking, on the very high end of self-discipline. I mean, they can execute in their behaviors. I saw her do a cut that I don't know. I mean, it would be terrible if I were to do that. So when it comes to her belief in her own ability to execute behaviors, she's very high. But she said there's another type of self-efficacy that I've studied that I don't think I have very high. She said, I believe in my ability to execute the behaviors, but what I don't believe in enough is my ability to decide what behaviors are actually going to get me to the outcome. And that's where this episode was born. Number 1, self-belief part 1, is I can execute against the behaviors that I need to execute against. I can do the work. Self-belief part 2 is I can figure out the proper strategy. I can figure out the right work to do. And so someone who has quote unquote level 10 self-belief, they need both. It needs to be, I believe I can do the work, but I also believe that I can figure out which work is most important. And that comes to reverse engineering finish lines and strategizing. So like someone who can figure out what the next right chess move is and then can execute that chess move is essentially the concept.
We used to have a mentor, and I always struggled getting advice from this mentor because I always wanted strategy, and I wanted tactics, and I wanted tips, and I never got any of them. I got all sorts of deeper understanding. And that was always a challenge for me. And we have done a lot of episodes on how to, 3 ways to, the number one thing. The reason we do episodes like that is because I think a lot of people struggle with strategy. When you sign up with a coach, you're paying for accountability depending on what it is, but oftentimes it's strategy. What do you want to accomplish? Well, I don't know how to do blank. I did a podcast breakthrough session with someone today, amazing human. It was wonderful. And it was just, how do I do this? Am I doing this right? How do I do this? What do I do if I want this? It was just all strategy. And I think that second one, the strategy versus behavior, but then again, I know the behavior is really hard too. It's really hard to do something consistently.
Well, let me ask you, because you've been a really shining example, I think, of what it's like to build self-belief. 0 to 10, how much do you believe in your own ability to do behaviors, to execute?
10.
Okay. 0 to 10, how much do you believe in your ability to identify what behaviors are going to get you to the outcomes you want?
When it comes to like people and understanding that, it's pretty high. But when it comes to reverse engineering finish lines and strategizing, I don't know, maybe like a 6
For
and a
me,
half.
it's the opposite. My belief in understanding people is actually lower. I've been wrong so many times.
Yeah.
My belief in reverse engineering, like what your calories need to be in order to hit a certain weight by a certain timeline, I mean, that's 10 out of 10 for me.
Well, it's numbers.
But when it comes to how other people, yeah, exactly. I think it's the math thing.
It's numbers. For me, it's intuitive. There's been a lot of times where I'll say something to you, or I'll say something to the NLPS team, and I'll just be like, no, I'll smooth it over with this person. Like, I know what to say. It's okay. I know what to say to get the result we want. Not always, but there's a good amount of times where I'll just do something and it works pretty well. But that's just because I've done that for long enough.
You know, this comes down to our last episode. I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, about IQ versus EQ. I think that there's a parallel here of, if you have the first self-belief of I can do the behaviors, well, if you're resonating with what Kevin's saying about I know what to say, I know how to get along with people, I know how to influence, that kind of thing, I think that's more EQ. I think the IQ is much more, if I do these things, I'm going to get this outcome. You know, I actually think it's really, I've come to understand that it's really difficult to reverse engineer goals. And the reason why is because usually, let me try to explain this concept. All right, when you look at an acorn, you don't see some big, huge tree 100 years later. It just, I mean, imagine if you never saw a tree and you only ever saw an acorn, just for a second. The acorn is the idea. So I want to build $1 billion business. Okay, that's just an acorn. If you've never seen a tree before, would you really think that it can become that? Like a redwood or an oak tree? You'd be like, what the hell?
It doesn't all fit. It doesn't all fit in there.
Yeah, exactly.
No way.
And so I think that as much as that's probably not the best example in the world, I think that as a kid, somehow, some way, I was good at figuring out what acorns made what trees. And that's really what I'm doing a lot more of now, because I realize that's not a given anymore. Because, so for you, you didn't even know you had the strength of knowing what would affect what people in what way and that kind of thing. You know, I remember you saying, well, if I want it to work, it'll work. And I remember thinking, like, I never felt that way in relationships.
Well, a big piece of it is because of the person I'm with. It's not just me. Right. I wouldn't. There's relationships I was in that I would never say that. I feel very comfortable saying that with Tarryn.
Well, when I was single and you were with Tarryn, I had like no confidence when I ended my last relationship.
Yeah.
And you said something to me on a session where it was essentially, well, of course you're not confident. You've never succeeded yet. Meaning I had been basically 29 years of not having a successful long-term relationship. I had 4.5 years, 5 years, and then I think a 2-year one. But I had never really succeeded at this long-term relationship thing. And so Kev's like, well, of course you're not confident. But I remember thinking to myself, I'm really confident in other areas. You know, and so what's the difference? I think the difference is awareness. I think I was good at reverse engineering finish lines, but not very good at understanding human beings. As much as I thought anyways. Particularly relationship stuff. And if you asked me now, having studied all the relationship stuff, the inner work, therapy, Conscious Couples podcast, cycles, you know, triggers, insecurities, all the stuff we've done at NLU, but more importantly at the We and Conscious Couples, I feel way more confident now because I feel like I get it. I understand what makes a relationship fail and what makes it work. Like trust, communication, vulnerability, humility, courage, difficult conversations, empathy. These are the things that are critical. And so at the end of the day, for all our listeners, let's check in. Which of these beliefs do you have more? Do you have part 1, I know I can do the behavior? Or part 2, I know I can decide which behaviors are going to get me what outcomes? And maybe you're out there saying, I'm not very good at either of those. That's okay. Let's just build them up a little bit by a little bit by a little bit. And eventually you'll get to a place, because Kev said a 10 and a 7, 10 plus 7, 17 divided by 2. You're probably around 8, you know?
Yeah, I would say so.
8.25, yeah, confidence. So I think that your level of confidence, your level of self-belief is probably the average of these two.
My chair just gave a...
What's the level of self-belief that your chair will...
My chair is going to hold my arse very low, very small amount.
Hi there. This is Dr. Tarryn McCarthy, and I am the host of the Business of Happiness podcast, which would not be in existence were it not for the one and only Kevin Palmieri. He helped me put it together with his great expertise, and every week his whole team works tirelessly to get these podcasts uploaded to Buzzsprout and to deliver my content to my audience. I am so grateful. I couldn't say enough about him. Please, if this is something you're considering, I highly recommend him.
I think the hardest thing about the strategy thing is, think of it this way. If you don't have a lot of reps in strategizing and then following through, it's really hard to have confidence because it takes a long time. If you're strategizing for something and it takes you 2 years to accomplish, that's a long time before you actually get that belief. This might land, I don't know. This lands for me when I say it, so maybe it will for you, whether you're watching or listening. If you hire a coach to just tell you what to do, maybe you're really good at the behavior. When I did bodybuilding, I hired a coach, and I just wanted him to tell me what to do. I'll follow through. I just tell me what to do. Tell me what to eat. Tell me how much to eat. Tell me how often to weigh myself. Tell me when you need pictures, and I'm good. The strategy was super valuable too. I understood the strategy to a degree, but I was really paying him for accountability and strategy because I wouldn't have pushed myself as hard if I didn't have a coach. But if you think of that, if you pay someone just because you want them to tell you what to do, but you know you can follow through, you're probably really good at the behavior. Maybe you just don't know the strategy. That's really me in a nutshell. I'll just ask Alan, what do I do? And he'll give me a system, and I'll just run it forever. And then he'll say, like, are you still doing the same thing? It's like, yeah, man. It's awesome, isn't it? It's like, no, it's time to switch. Oh, darn.
That's been really funny. Like, Kev, runs systems. That dude will just run. I joke
it.
behind the scene. He'll just run the system for as long as he needs to, which is a superpower, honestly. As long as you got the right system, man. My God.
But look at this. Our behavior, like we'll just do episodes forever, and as we do them, we'll learn more strategy of how to get better.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's really hard to do one without the other.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do it consistently, you don't know if the strategy's working. If you don't have the strategy, it's hard to do it consistently. It really is a kind of a juggling act of if you don't have one. Yeah, it is. It is maybe this is a new version of the confidence conundrum in a way.
Maybe this is why you had self-belief with me more than without me. Instead of borrowing my belief, what if you just borrowed my strategies? What a huge
that's the belief I needed. Yeah.
This person that I'm coaching, I think that she even said as soon as I had the system, because she lost 22 pounds in 20 weeks, which is just awful. I mean, anyone who's ever done that, it's just horrible.
It's not
and
great.
She wasn't overweight or anything. It's not like she had a lot of weight to lose. And I was so impressed, blown away, crushed it. She's like, well, once I had the system and I knew it would work, I can execute. It's that I don't know my own system will work. So maybe instead of borrowing someone's belief, maybe you can borrow someone's strategy. And maybe that will build your belief. But then the question becomes, you can't always rely on other people's strategies, right? So you kind of have to learn how to strategize, and that's maybe another episode.
I know. Yeah, this is deeper than I expected it to be. Not I won't say that. I expected it to be deep. But it's not that straightforward. It's not, well, you're either good at one or the other, or you're good at both, or you're good at neither. The only way to get good at strategy is to do it consistently enough and then test out stuff. I said something to
Yeah, go ahead.
I said something to you today. We were talking about something behind the scenes, and we were just talking about growth and growth over the years. And I said, one of the best things ever for me that you did was you let me fly the coop, for lack of better phrasing. And you said, what do you mean? And I said, you just let me go out and do things. One of the most important things I ever did was I got to the place where I said, I would rather write up an email, send it myself, and lose the client than write up an email, have you look at it, and then us get the client. I don't think that's serving me. I think we're past that, and I need to learn this on my own. So that works really well for me. I took your strategy, and I took what I learned from the strategies you taught me and what I've been practicing through those strategies, and then I tried to figure out, all right, what pieces of that strategy can I remember enough to use it on my own?
And now I have part of those strategies suck.
That's true too. But now I have my own strategies.
Yeah.
Built off of the strategies that you taught me, the strategies that I tried, and then what worked and what didn't. So I think that the only answer for that is you have to get outside of your comfort zone. I know I sound like a broken record with that, but you have to use, if you have level 1 understanding of strategy, awesome. Use level 1 understanding of strategy to try to get to level 2. And then when you get to level 2, it's the same thing though of, yeah, you're most likely not going to go from, I don't know what a great example is. You're most likely not going to go from learning how to drill 2 pieces of wood together to building a custom mansion in a year. The strategy just doesn't compound that fast. But there's no reason you can't build, drill 2 pieces of wood together and then drill 4 pieces of wood together and then build a platform and then build a shed and then build a bigger shed and then build a tree house. Your strategy becomes tools for you to use later. Strategy is just understanding inputs and outputs, really. When I do this, I get this result, then you stack them. You want to teach strategy? You probably know it better than I do.
No. That's not what I'm laughing at. I had a funny story I've never told before.
Let's hear it.
When I was a kid, I know you got to jump soon, Kev.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I built a treehouse with one of my best friends, Kiki. Ooh. And we decided to do something that we thought was very innovative that was actually a really terrible idea.
Okay.
We had this mighty oak, this huge oak tree, in the treehouse. So instead of putting the boards to where, because there was these perfect 5 trees, right? And one of them was really thick, huge thick oak tree. if we go around the tree, we'll have so much more space in the treehouse. So the tree was in the treehouse. This was a legit treehouse. We had shingles, we had a rug, we brought electricity out there, we had a trap door, we had a full window. I mean, this was we took years to build this thing. And I'll tell you what, we failed forward. And here's what happens when you nail nails into trees.
They die.
They sap.
Lots
of sap all over the electrical cords, all over the rug. Just awful, right?
Oh, no.
And we also, I'm pretty sure we might have mutated some spiders because of all the foam that we had to put to like block the rain. But anyways, my point of the treehouse story is this: you have to fail forward. And our next treehouse would have been world class. but why? Because our first one was just mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And yes, most of the nails that we put in took about 2 or 3 before we... You ever hammer a nail halfway and then you mess it up and then you have to hammer it in because you can't take it out?
Of course.
Of course. So, I never told that story before, but what does that have to do with belief? I believe in my ability to build a treehouse. Seriously. Here's why. I did it. I did it before. And I failed so many times on so many things. Now, can I build a world-class treehouse? No. But I can build a way better one than we built. I'll tell you that for sure. A couple kids who didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Well, sometimes that's fun. It's fun to not know the strategy sometimes. If you don't really want a very good result.
He wasn't thrilled. He was so mad at us. He's like, we shouldn't, the whole year, like back then it felt like years, but probably a couple years. He was like, dude, we shouldn't have put the damn tree in the treehouse. It's like, dude, get over it, man. We made a mistake. He's like, still salty about it, I bet.
Understandable. Next Level Nation, if you are seeking strategy when it comes to peak performance or your small business or whatever it is, maybe your new business, your large business, whatever. If you're seeking strategy on how to get better, reach out to Alan. Alan can help you with that. If you are seeking strategy with podcasting help, reach out to me. I will help you with that. I was going to talk about Next Level Nation, but I think if we're talking about strategy, those are the 2 things that we really help people strategize around. So link will be in the show notes for all of our information. But yeah, happy to chat about anything you need help strategizing on.
Alan at nextleveluniverse.com, Kevin at nextleveluniverse.com, spelled just like it sounds. My voice, I'm losing my voice, brother.
I know.
Okay.
You need me to carry it home?
Huh?
You need me to carry it home?
No. I got this. 3 words you need to remember if you want a next level relationship.
Which you
That
do.
is our monthly meetup, number 26, and it is in the love month, February 1st, 2024. So our monthly meetup for the love month, February, is 3 words you need to remember if you want a next level relationship. The link to register will be in the show notes.
Tomorrow for episode number 1590. I hope my nose pimple disappears by then. Another thing Kevin and Alan are polar opposites with.
Nice.
I don't know if I've ever used...
I was on a podcast earlier today, and the guy said Kevin is more jacked than you.
That it's a fact. That's not... That wasn't to be mean, or that's a fact.
Shots fired. No, it is a fact.
I
said that.
Fact.
I said he is jacked. Yeah.
I appreciate that. If that host is listening, shout out to you for being a real one.
Yep.
And taking care of Kev when he's not there. Because I'm sure Alan was flexing away. You probably even asked.
I wasn't. I didn't flex once, man.
You said, hey,
I don't even know why you brought that up.
Kev's not going to hear this, but between you and I, who's in better shape, me or Kev? And then he got an answer he didn't like. Surprised he even told me. All right, we're going to go because it is 7:15, and I promised Tarryn we would spend some time together, so I'm going to go see my wonderful wife. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Build both types of belief. Next Level Nation.